My name is Michael Frank. I'm a member of the Miccosukee Tribe. My clan is the Otter clan. My way of life is the Everglades. Kaheli, Yatale means the Everglades people. Miccosukee survived from the soldiers back in the 1800s when Andrew Jackson signed that treaty saying move all the Indians to Oklahoma. This way, we're going to make them walk and talk like us. But my ancestors came into the Everglades. They hide, they survived. We came out. But we were told to never, ever leave your Everglades, your way of life, and plant your corn. My home is the Everglades here, out in the Chickees, out in the Everglades here, not by the highway. And that's who I am. This is my home, this is my land. The Miccosukee Tribe itself lives here in the Everglades, the tribe. And here, the tribe is fighting the United States. They're making the Everglades, the conservation area tree is like a cesspool. It'd be just like you and I. If you're my neighbor, instead of me taking my trash to the garbage man to pick it up, I would just dumping it over in your yard. And that's what they're doing to our land. And that's why there's a battle for our home, for our land. And that's why I'm here in the Everglades. And back in the early 80s, when we was fighting for our survival, for our way of life, what came up was that no longer, like I said, we couldn't live in the Everglades no more. We had to come on out to the highway because all the tree islands were underwater. They were like a pool. Instead of being maybe 4 or 5 feet high, flowing freely into the ocean, it was like 15, 20 feet in some places. And all the islands, that where you're standing here, only about 6 years ago, this island itself was about 1.5 feet of water. This land was drowned. And when that happens, all your animals, like your raccoons, your rabbits, your panthers, your bears, anything that needed dry ground, was drowning in the Everglades. And the only alive thing that you would see in the Everglades was the birds and the fish. That was it. You probably didn't see no snakes no more. And that's why we sued the United States back in the early 80s. And that's why when we sue them, we always win because we have the facts. And here, they would pass a law saying that they're going to abide by this Everglades Conservation Act, Forever Act. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. Even the standards of the Prospect per billion, it's going to be 10% per billion. They would make all these laws in the federal courthouse and they would sign it. But before the ink dries, they would turn around and change it. When that happens, it would get diluted. Before the ink dries, the Corps of Engineers, the South Water Management, the EPA, the United States itself, would change it, would try to add on to it. Instead of saying, it says the water should be 10 parts per billion, instead of saying, oh, we're going to go ahead and say it's 6 or 7% per billion. Instead of making that deadline to like 10 years from now, we're going to make it 20 or 30 years from now. And they would just make it so that they won't have to do nothing because you have your lobbyists in Washington saying, oh, we can't abide by that because we got to make our millions from the cattle, from the sugar cane, from the development, everything. All that has a part in it because when we're fighting the United States, we're practically fighting the whole world because everybody's coming to South Florida. It's a beautiful place to live. No snow, only hurricanes every now and then, but it's a beautiful place to live and everybody's coming. But most of the people, we have to re-educate them. We have to tell them over and over, this is your law. You the guys that passed, we didn't make this law, you guys made this law. We tell them, abide by this law, and we always win. Even the federal court judges have sided with us for the past 2 court hearings already. And we're not going to give up because we have the truth and we're not going to lose. The only people that are going to lose is probably going to be people that wants to make the millions and billions. But we ourselves, we know what's right and we know how we should live. That's why we're fighting practically the whole world because money needs to be made. Everybody's coming to South Miami to make their millions overnight, but they dumping their trash, their chemicals, their pollution into the Everglades, and that's why we're fighting them. The special interest groups they're the people that they have nothing to do with the Everglades, but they say they're representing the Everglades. They're going to restore the Everglades, and they've never been out here. And you would see if they make commercials on TV, you're not going to see me or see anybody living here in the Water Conservation Area 3 talking about the Everglades, how it is, how nice it is. You would hear somebody talking about the Everglades from Okeechobee, from Fort Lauderdale, from Homestead, from Chickasaw, from Naples, Fort Myers, and that's how they go about it because they go all around the Miccosukee Indians, Conservation Area 3. They leave a donut because they don't want to deal with it. they don't want to hear us speak, and that's the reason why, that's where the special interest comes from, is to go on, make some money, because there's big millions of dollars contracts behind it, restoring the Everglades and building a highway through the Everglades.